Welcome to day 2 of our Nespresso Cafe talks about sustainability. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. We have 2 really exciting talks to talk about today, and we're starting off with one on products and consumerism, and what it's going to take to transition to a sustainable consumption model, from everywhere from the products that we create to how we consume them. So I've been really excited to have Jane Abernethy, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Humanscale, and also Tomas Vera, who is the Creative Director of the fashion and textile brand Verdi. Yeah. But before we get started, I'm going to kick it over to Vince from Nespresso, who wants to talk a little bit about their sustainability initiatives. So here you go.
Thanks, Nate. So quick shout out to obviously Surface. Welcome to the talks. And wanted to give you guys a heads up. So we have lovely coffee over here. We have everything in aluminum capsules. We have amazing coffee. But a big thing that we do at Nespresso is also a lot of sustainability work. So we actually will recycle every single one of those capsules at this show as well, or at these panels as well as at the show. If you've been over to the show, please take a look and have some of our coffee. And for every capsule that's brewed, we actually are donating $1 to the American forest throughout the entire week. So on top of that, we are very big in sustainability. We actually do provide free recycling bags so that you can dump your old capsules or used capsules. We will take those and we will actually recycle that aluminum into new bikes, new vegetable peelers, so on and so forth. And we do utilize the coffee grounds for sustainable farming, such as fertilizer. So I will shut up now and I'll get this going on because you don't want to hear me shell anymore. So thank you, Nate, and take it away.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, so I wanted to briefly start off by having Jane and Tomas give an overview of the companies they work at and some of the things that they're doing in the sustainability space. So Jane, why don't you start?
So I'll start that. Hi, everyone. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Humanscale. And Humanscale is the premier manufacturer of ergonomic products for the workplace. And the workplace is usually an office, but it could be a healthcare environment or it could be a home where a lot of us are working from home these days. And we have the premise of our business is to make products that keep us in a healthy work posture, but then you keep taking care of the human body is kind of a starting point. We also extend that to making sure we're using healthy materials and then also being sustainable and taking care of the planet. And that's, I'm lucky enough to lead sustainability at Humanscale, and it's something that we take very seriously. And when we're mass producing products, we look very deeply into our supply chain and how the products are made and what's going to happen with them afterwards, and the many different aspects of how sustainability plays out.
Thank you. Well, my name is Tomas Vera. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, okay. Well, hello guys. My name is Tomas Vera, and I'm the creative director at Verdi. Verdi is a Colombian textile studio, and we specialize in combining. That one, okay. Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's better. So anyways, as I was telling you, I'm the creative director at Verdi, and we're a Colombian textile studio, and we specialize in combining natural fibers with metals to create contemporary textiles with an artisanal heritage. So everything that we create is handmade. So I always used to say, I remember 5 years ago how we were inherently sustainable because everything we did was handmade. But then, 5 years ago, I really did not know what I was talking about when it came to sustainability. And then little by little, I started realizing and learning how we could improve. And that's what we have been doing in the last 5 years, even in a handmade business. So maybe that's what I would like to focus on, what we could talk about today.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we were just discussing before this is, how ubiquitous and the term sustainability has become. I'm sure everyone's heard it a million times this week. And then, like the word organic, it doesn't necessarily mean that what is being advertised as sustainable is sustainable. And one of the questions I had for Jane, because Humanscale is such an all-encompassing company when it comes to sustainability and eco-consciousness, is how difficult and how practical is it for a company to make the transition to being, as you guys say, a net positive company. So maybe you can talk about what it's been like for you guys to implement these initiatives to build, not just for building the products, but the way that you manufacture and the way that you vet suppliers and everything in between, and how practical it is for a company to make that full transition.
So I think if a company wants to become sustainable tomorrow and change the way they're doing everything, that would be very difficult, borderline impossible. But I also believe that if you decide that's what you want to do, it's very feasible and quite possible to do. It just takes determination and takes a decision that that's the way you're going to operate. And then systematically, you start changing business as usual. And it's really setting up those systems and looking at how you're operating so that systematically you're making better choices again and again. So I would say we've been on this journey for a while, and you're seeing when we do an announcement, like we did this past June, to say that 60% of our products are now climate positive, there was probably 3 or 4 years of work behind that. So we have the idea and become very determined to make that a reality. Then putting all the pieces in place, that's a bit of a little bit longer term game. But it's a matter of systematically putting the right pieces in place, and it's not impossible to do. It's really about being determined, making a decision that that's how we're going to operate, and being determined to do it.
Is the first step the products, what you make, and what materials you're using, and how you're making them for that process?
I think the very first step is understanding how we interact with the world and where we affect sustainability. Understanding what are our greenhouse gas emissions? What kind of materials do we use? Do they have toxins in them or don't they? Can they be reused afterwards? Where are we sourcing material from? What's our supply chain like? So the first step is really understanding how we influence the world. Where are we making things better? Where are we making things worse? Where are there some opportunities that we could do better? Or where are we maybe improving lives for people where we can continue to do that and grow that?
And then from Tomas's side, what Verdi does is really interesting as well. There's a lot of material innovation to what you do, as well as sourcing methods for fibers that don't contribute to deforestation. Maybe talk about how you married this, heritage craftsmanship with kind of these new technologies and techniques.
Okay, for sure, Nate. I wanted to tell a story that goes very much in hand with what Jane just mentioned, that being sustainable is not really that easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. I remember about 3 years ago, I went to Curiti, which is a small native community in Colombia, where we work with the families who dye our natural fibers into colors. And I remember taking this beautiful shot with my camera of the water just coming out of the pot, and it was all blue and it looked beautiful, and I made it in slow motion, and I loved the shot. And then after seeing the video I created, I was like, wow, where's all that water going? And they were actually dumping it in the mountain, but you don't really realize. So I got and said, okay, I'm on a mission and I'm gonna change this. So I went and I took a course on sustainable dyeing methods. And then I became a friend of the teacher, and I graduated from the course, and I learned how to dye natural fibers in a sustainable way. And then I told the teacher, hey, come on over with me to Curiti. We're gonna change this community's way of dyeing, and we're gonna make a positive impact on Colombia and on the mountain and on their lives. And I went there and I was so optimistic and I was going to change their way of thought. And we went there with the chemistry teacher. The first time, we showed them. The second time we went again. And we went a total of 5 times. And it was not working. And then I had 2 choices. I could either decide to change their minds or, or run my company. It was either this or that because I couldn't do both. And then this year we teamed up with Universidad de los Andes. We showed them about the project. And there's this new idea of dyeing with bacteria, and we're going to see how that goes. But we learned that, we have to get support sometimes to be able to be sustainable. It's something that you cannot always just do by yourself, especially when it's things that are outsourced.
And what was the process like for the fibers themselves and the innovation that's come from that and integrating metal fibers and
In terms of what we do in our work, what we take natural fibers. You'll find 95% of our pieces natural fibers because that's what connects us to Colombia and Latin America. And in many cases, we mix those fibers with metals to create contemporary textiles, but keeping that artisanal heritage. So then, like I said, what we do is always handmade, so there's really no big waste. There's not that much machinery. We never use cow hides or anything that is not completely sustainable. But then when it comes, let's say, to the metal we use, we've been trying to get certifications with copper, but it's not that easy. So there's a whole lot of challenges that you face along the way. And then I completely agree with you, Nate, because everyone just goes around saying, oh, we're super sustainable, but it's not like that. I mean, I wish it was.
Yeah, it's like I said, the biggest comparison that comes to my mind is the word organic. Yeah. And so another issue is just consumerism in general. The population of the world is growing. There's more of us. We're consuming more. We are consuming faster. We're in the era of fast fashion, fast design. What are some of the hurdles to getting people to consume less and consume better? We talked previously about changing people's minds about maybe investing in something that's more quality now, as opposed to buying something cheap and actually saving money over the long term. But it's a challenge to change people's minds.
This is a really good question, and it's something that you're right. As we consume more and more, of course, we're using more and more resources, and I think what you've hit on is exactly what we need to be doing, is to be looking at the items that we're purchasing, looking at the items that we own and the things that surround us, and really actually finding that we should really love those things. We should find products that we really want to appreciate over the long run. We have a good connection with. If you're looking at something and it's maybe on sale and it looks like you'll like it today, but maybe it'll won't feel so exciting next week or next month, or, those are the kind of things that maybe we need to take a second look at and say, is that really going to make me happier in the long run? And I think it's interesting that at the same time that we have fast fashion and so much consumerism, we also have like the movement towards simplicity and the magic of cleaning up and some of these things that are the counter movement, which is when people want a bit of a break from it. And I think there's also that side of it, that we're getting a bit overloaded, that we're starting to feel a bit tired of having, feeling so like we've got too much stuff almost. So I think that there's the way forward looks more like appreciating the things we have, when we being more selective when we're purchasing new items, and then looking at things that are going to make us happier over the long run.
Less but better. Tomas, and then you have a unique hurdle, or I should say a different kind of hurdle too, in that you are based out of Colombia, which is a third world country, and you're selling a luxury product, even though you're selling internationally. But just maybe talk about what that's.
I wanted to add to what Jane said about sustainability, and one of our major goals, or one of the problems, let's say, that we've come up with, or the challenges, is that all of us right here know about sustainability because we've all had that education. We've all kind of grown up with it. But when you're in Colombia, when you're in a third world country, when you have a team of 45 artisans, how do you transfer that thought to them? How do you teach them to try and be sustainable, not just at the workshop, but at their homes and in their lives? And I mean, I think that is probably the biggest challenge we face, because like you said, Nate, I mean, sustainability gets thrown around all the time here, but when it comes to that part of the population in Colombia, it doesn't. So I think our greatest challenge is to educate and be able to show them how to be properly sustainable. And then, I mean, how do you get them not to buy fast fashion? You know, it's so I think that perhaps is the biggest challenge we have. I think I've always considered it has to do a lot with government and education, and it's something that we're still working on. We don't really have the answer to, but at least we're trying to do what we can with the people we have around us.
I wanted to real quickly maybe open it up for a quick Q&A before we move on to the next panel. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? Anybody? Euler? Yes, we can hear you.
A lot of people in the world struggle for day-to-day things. So what's one thing that people can do that set their mind on? Because we go out, the expenses in their life doesn't matter. They think even there's someone being thrown around, and they go, someone else's problem. There's something you buy people when they are wealthy enough to afford it.
So, in case, for those who might not have heard the question, if I understand, I'm going to try and paraphrase it, is what's one thing that people can do who might not be wealthy enough to afford investing in very sustainable, products that might last a very long time? And I guess one thing that comes to mind is that sustainability at its essence is often aligns with efficiency, which can often be financially advantageous. So when you're looking at buying something that will last for a little bit longer, it's a bit more of an investment up front, but over a certain amount of time, and doing those calculations will figure out allow you to figure out whether that actually applies to you or not. Then there's also things like buying secondhand, buying clothes that were made 15 years ago are made at a higher level of quality than a lot of clothes that are being sold on the market today. So looking for secondhand, high-quality products may not be more expensive. When you're looking at reusing materials, a lot of times those are not more expensive. So it's being a little bit more selective, and it might take more creativity on how to do those things, where to find those goods. But I would say for folks who sustainability might seem more expensive, it doesn't necessarily have to be. It just kind of depends on what you're putting into it and how you're approaching it.
Yeah, and to that, then I would also, because like I said, I don't really have the answer. It's a very tough question, but I would say it also comes down to the government and sort of mass education, mass influencers, and just keep on spreading that and giving the message continuously over and over and over. But I think that's how we learn, just like we get that Coke bottle all the time, all the way, just, be sustainable, and then maybe it'll start to develop or to grow in that part of the population.
I'm going to add one more thing, is that as a manufacturer, I'm seeing more and more countries where they're asking us to be responsible for our products, so that we're no longer allowed to just sell things into a market and be like, okay, that's your problem, it's your garbage now that you're done with it, you guys have to deal with it. So that's another thing where government, steps in and makes a law, and then we then have to change our business practices. So that's, it doesn't necessarily cost the consumer more or the individual more to require that from manufacturers.
It's really interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, I'm getting the wrap-up signal for the next talk. So I want to thank Jane and Tomas for joining the panel, and invite Jimena, Rafik, and Pablo up here for our next panel on NFTs and the massive amount of energy they use.